Welcome back to page 121. Today we're going to jump into Unearthed Arcana, and we're going to take a look at the third level magic user spell, Item. This is a really undersung spell, at least at my table. I like this spell a great deal. So basically it's level 3, range is touch. It lasts 6 turns per level, that's 1 hour per level, but the duration is quadrupled if used on non-living material. So that would be 4 hours per level. So for my standard assumption of a 10th level magic user using this spell, he would get it for 10 hours per level or 40 hours. 1 hour per level, so 10 hours, or 40 hours if used on non-living material. 2 cubic feet per level of caster, so you get 20 cubic feet. That's a big area. Verbal, somatic, and material components. Casting time is 3 segments, and saving throw is special. By means of this spell, the magic user is able to touch any normal, non-magical item of a size appropriate to the allowable area of effect and cause it to shrink to 1/12 its normal size. Optionally, the caster can change its now shrunken composition to a cloth-like one. Only living things are entitled to a saving throw versus spell, but each is made at +4. Objects and creatures transformed to cloth make saving throws normally, as if not altered against subsequent attacks. So I'll get to that in a moment. Objects changed by an item spell can be returned to normal composition and size merely by tossing them onto any solid surface or by a word of command from the original spellcaster. It is possible to effective fire and its fuel with this spell. So a lot to unpack there and a lot to interpret. So I'm going to go over how we do it at my table. So by means of the spell, it is a touch spell. So for instance, one of the uses I saw this spell used for was they had no knock spells, they had no way to breach a metal door. So the spellcaster of the group said, hey, wait a minute, I'll use an item spell and I'll shrink the darn thing. I'll shrink it to 1/12 its normal size, which a 6-foot door is going to shrink down to half a foot, and I'll turn it to cloth just for grins. So you just now have this handkerchief basically where the door had been. And that worked really well for the player. And then later on, he used the door basically as an obstruction for some monsters that were chasing them by leaning it up against something and returning it to its normal size. And the monster still had to bypass this unhinged but still metal door before they could pursue the party. So there's a couple of different ways to use this. I favor something along those lines, or obviously, in my opinion, this was put in here for large treasure. If you see that statue that you absolutely feel you have to take home, you can turn it into a smaller cloth-like thing and then just roll it up and carry it out of the dungeon. And it lasts as a non-magical item. My 10th level magic user casting it would last for 40 hours. So over a day and a half. So you're going to have plenty of time to get that statue back to where you want it and have the magic user command the spell to end before it just ends while it's on somebody's back. By the way, it could also be used that way. Just turn something to cloth and slip it into somebody else's backpack. Say the command word, and suddenly they are buried under this weight. I've seen that done with a boulder. Somebody took a boulder, which has great mass, but wasn't a ton of area, cast the item spell on the boulder, slipped it into somebody else's pocket in a bar, and then when that person got unruly, just yelled the command word, and the item spell became a boulder again, and that guy had a big problem. So there's lots of different uses for it. I think this spell is underutilized at my table. So yeah, guys, I know you guys watch my videos. Go ahead, start taking this spell. It's a really good one. The saving throw for creatures at a +4 will use an ogre. Standing at 8 feet tall, the ogre is going to be shrunk down to 10 inches, 8 inches, whatever the math works out to be. But he gets a saving throw at +4. Now, if I'm a third level, or casting a third level spell, I'm a 7th level MU. But an ogre can still be a challenge to me, so that might be a way to get rid of him. But he's got a +4 saving throw, which is going to give him a pretty fat saving throw. So you've got to keep that in mind. But you also keep in mind if you have anything that allows minuses to saving throws for this type of magic, that would go against the +4. So you might be able to get a few things, at least at my table, that help you minus some saving throws. I am very much in favor at higher levels of giving out some things now and again that will help a magic user reduce an opponent's saving throw, simply because saving throws are written, this game is written basically to 12th level, and the saving throws can tend to be a little too high, and the magic user can find himself not very effective. But this one allows saving throw at +4, which is pretty darn good. But again, I believe this spell was really intended to go ahead and shrink down that big chest that you can't open, turn it into a cloth thing, slip it into your pocket, take the chest out, say the command word, turn it back into a chest. Now you can open it in safety. I really think that that's what it's intended to do. Now you're going to say, wait a minute, a chest full of things, that's multiple items. I allow it if it's contained within something. So if it's in a chest, yes, I allow the item spell to affect the chest and contents. And I realize it doesn't say that here, but that's how I allow it at my table, simply because I believe that was the spell as intended. Getting back to this other, it says it is possible to affect fire and its fuel with this spell. It would be a good way to take a bonfire and just turn it into a torch. Or if for whatever reason you were worried about your ability to maybe make another fire, for whatever, you're in an Arctic environment, it's very windy, and you're concerned that you won't be able to make a bonfire, you could simply, by touch, be careful where you touch, have that ring of fire resistance on if you can, but you could turn the bonfire into a piece of cloth, and that would last, at my 10th level casting, would last for 40 hours. Now I can take that piece of cloth, and I can, next time I set up camp, I can simply say the command word. Now I've got a roaring bonfire right there waiting to be used. I just as a side effect, I have had this used this way by a player at my table, and I just made it that the cloth itself felt a little unusually warm, a little warmer than the ambient temperature. No harm, no damage or anything, but I just thought it was an interesting kind of cinematic effect. But there are a lot of uses for this 3-segment casting time, touch. But again, if you're shrinking down that statue or that big chest, who cares? That's 3 segments plus the touch. I have seen this spell used where the magic user went into the room invisibly. The players started engaging the opponents at the doorway. I believe they were ogres. And the magic user simply went up to the treasure chest the ogres were guarding, hit it with an item spell, and then just rolled it up very quickly, and out the door he went. Now the item spell, the chest, would not be invisible. We do not allow things that are picked up after the invisibility gets turned on. We do not allow things to turn invisible once they're picked up by the invisible person. So if you pick up a chair and walk around with it, the chair is quite visible. But in this case, he could roll it up to make it small enough that he could try to slip out of the room unnoticed while the ogres are distracted, and then the players could withdraw, that kind of thing. So it's a good way to sneak in and get it. It's really good for a magic user thief. My magic user thief, Lefty, also called Flynn, named for Errol Flynn, has used the item spell in that way. Rather than mess around with a treasure, which you don't know, treasure chest, whatever, he has gone into the area, hit the item with an item spell, shrunk it down, slipped it into a pocket, and then left the area. So there's some uses for it. I think this is a very good spell. I think it's underutilized. And yes, guys, I'm encouraging you, go ahead and start taking this spell. It's a really good one. But that's all I've got today on page 121. I want to thank you for your time. Thanks for watching. Please leave any comments below. Like the video if you did like the video. Tell your friends. And let's keep the channel growing. And please take a look at the Patreon, see if you can help me there. And that's all I've got today out of the fine Unearthed Arcana book. And have a good day, and I'll see you next time on page 121.